Welcome to the Neurogenic Integration Podcast, where we explore the incredible potential of neurogenic tremoring beyond the basics. I'm Alex Green.
And I am Sylvia Song-Shields. Together, we'll be diving into how this natural, innate process can be seen and applied across different professions, healing modalities, and in scientific research.
Whether you're a practitioner, a coach, a therapist, a body worker, or a researcher, this podcast is for you.
Join us as we uncover the science, share experiences, and explore how neurogenic integration is revolutionizing the way we approach stress, trauma, and well-being.
So take a breath, get comfortable, and let's dive in. All right. Good afternoon or evening, everybody. I'm Alex Green here in Boulder, Colorado, and welcome to the Neurogenic Integration Podcast. And I'm excited to be sitting down with my guest, Isabelle Claus Teixeira, today. Isabelle is joining us from somewhere outside of Kyoto, Japan, where she lives now. And I'm very excited to have this conversation. Isabelle is a colleague of mine in the TRE world as a fellow TRE certification trainer and, of course, a TRE provider. And I'll tell you about Isabelle in a moment. But one of the major themes that I would like to explore and discuss today with Isabelle, in addition to hearing her own story with finding tremoring and its importance for her, is to talk about the role of TRE or tremoring in corporate contexts, in coaching contexts, which is a major focus of Isabelle's, and to look at how and why neurogenic tremoring has a role to play in that sector of work. And it's something that's an area I've had some experiences and students and colleagues in, but not at the level of background and expertise that Isabelle does. So I think part of my own curiosity today is to spend some time feeling into that particular thing. So let me say, Isabelle, let me just say a few things about you, and then and welcome you to the show. So Isabelle is a leadership somatic, neuroscience-based, and trauma-informed coach. She's a certified TRE provider and trainer. She's an ICF mentor coach, ICF being the International Coaching Federation. Yeah.
Federation.
She's also a Forbes Coaching Council member, and she has spent more than 27 years as a senior HR leader and HR business partner, talent management, and organizational development leader across Asia, Pacific, Japan, Russia, the United States, and Europe. At one point, steering a leadership development across 15 countries for a global medical device company. More recently, she founded a boutique coaching and leadership development practice called Business and Human Development Asia. Co-founded with is it your husband?
Yes, it's my husband.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Co-founded with your husband, and at some point made the transition from, I think you were living in Singapore for some time,
Yep.
but are now based primarily in Japan, although based is the right way to say it because Isabelle is on the move a lot, popping up in all corners of the world with her activities from what I can tell. So that's great. But in any case, so Isabelle, welcome to the show. So happy to have you here.
And I'm really happy to, have that opportunity. Thank you, Alex. It's exciting. I'm not as you can see, I don't have a lot of social media presence. So it's always exciting and an honor to be invited to be able to speak and share, and lovely to actually be with a colleague of mine, of course.
Right. Very cool. Well, I think what I'm so interested in, at least as a starting point, Isabelle, is your background, because you've been you're very global as a person. I don't know where you were born, but you've lived in lots of places, and your career itself, at least the earlier stages of your career, a lot with HR and other sort of corporate settings. Maybe you could just sort of give us as a backdrop just a little bit about your life story leading into your professional journey, and then of course I want to hear how we got to the work you're up to today. But just
Yeah.
start with just kind of the backstory, maybe.
Yeah, well, so thanks for asking. So I think the first thing I would like your audience to know is that I had never planned to have the career I ended up having. When I was studying, or even up to the age of 22, 23, I would never envisage myself as being a global person, who would live outside France. So I'm born in France, in Alsace, right, in the east of France. I studied, let's go to fast forward 8 years old. We moved from Alsace to Paris. That was the first change, right? Big change of culture inside France, between the Alsatian regional culture, which is more, I would say, influenced by Germanic background, right? Into the way of living, the way of working, and the culture, and then moving into the suburb of Paris. I studied law. So, when I was, 17, 18, I wanted to be a human rights lawyer. And at the time, when I started studying law, I actually went into my master degree. Master degree was in criminology. There was the trial of the last Nazi trial in France called Klaus Barbie. And our criminal law professor made us go to the audience to see that. And then I was like, I want to be a human rights lawyer. And then he turned to me and he said, well, can you defend him? And for me, it was like, no way, I can't. Yeah, that guy, horrific thing we heard about what he did during the Nazi regime. And then he said, then you can't be a human rights lawyer because human rights apply as much to the criminal as to the victim. And that was, I would say, I was already master degree at the university in law, and that created a bit of a crisis about, oh my God, where am I going now if I'm not going to do this? And the other big interest I had in my life was economy. I loved, even at high school, economy and all that. And then I thought, HR. Hey, HR is about human. It's about company. And actually, there is a thing about, employment law, and especially in France, we have a lot of employment rights. It's very old tradition, from Marxism, and France being one of the first countries who've implemented a lot of the employment rights that you now find in the rest of the world. So I studied my last year university, fifth year of university, I studied employee relations and human resources, and graduated on them, and then started as a HR. And that's when my second big transition happened, which is it was unemployment in France, high unemployment for young graduates. And I got the opportunity to go to the UK for 9 months cover of maternity leave in a HR department of a company I had done summer interns right in France, and they had a UK branch. And against all odds, I got hired. I think the chance was two of my boss were Scottish and they love French, so that was a good combination. And here I was, 24. I took my bags and went to the train, the high-speed train to France, and then ended up in the UK. And that's how I left France. It was never planned, never thought through. And then I lived in the UK 5 years, and then I actually came back to France very little, just for 2 years. But basically since 1996, but now in 2026, 30 years living outside of my home country, and I never really went back for any substantial period of time. So worked internationally, lived in 10 countries, but I think I work with now, I think the last job I had in corporate, I think we had 55 different nationalities in the head count, or in the group of people I was taking care of. So pretty international, and I thrive on it. I get really smothered when I'm in a single culture, so I enjoy that very much indeed. And I'm no longer in labor law. I moved, from HR, so back quickly. I was in the hard HR side, so employee relationship, unions, negotiation, layoff, and all of that. Moved gradually into HR business partnering, where we go more into business strategy and leveraging HR tools. So going into a business leader mindset, which has a specialty in HR, like you have CFOs are business leaders with finance expertise. And then in 2018, I suddenly realized you can actually have the best process in the world if you don't have a culture and a vision. It doesn't work. So I moved to talent and leadership development to actually really study deeper what leadership is in development. And so I made that move in 2013.
13.
That's when I
Okay, yeah.
moved. Yeah, 13. That's when I went into the talent leadership development and was working in helping leaders. I love that statement we had at the time. Help leader become the leaders their people deserve. And that's really where it starts. It's like to
I
grow
see.
into becoming a leader your people deserve. And that's
Yeah.
how I started developing into, the art of personal growth development. Ended up leading me into employee engagement, organization culture work, and of course, executive coaching. That's how I went there. And
I see.
executive coaching is when I found my limit and I had to actually find my body back in that whole thing, because all this career was very brainy, was all disembodied. I was all in my head, my body carrying my brain from A to B. That was not on the picture. And then when I started working with leaders and talent development, you could train people as much as you want on skills. What the thing I was always wondering is, what is that secret recipe for executive presence? What
Okay,
is
sure.
presence? What is presence? And I was always really unsatisfied with that. And I think that's where I started looking beyond the cognitive, went into the world of belief, emotions, and all of that, try to go into neuroscience to understand the science of the brain. And then, of course, the brain is an organ, right? As soon as you go in neuroscience, you are in the body, whatever
Right.
people tell you. And that's
Right.
how I went deeper and deeper into discovering how to align our three intelligence, right? Cognitive intelligence, heart intelligence, and our intuition.
Yeah.
So that's all body and only the body, so that's how I went
So,
adventurous.
cool. When did you leave a corporate role and
Yeah.
go into sort of the consulting coaching practice
Yeah.
role?
So I actually we created BHG in 2012, but full time jumping out of corporate and becoming a consultant and executive coach. 2016 was really the jump.
I see.
I came back to corporate for a little while here in Japan between 2021 and 23, not to lose totally ground, but basically 2016. So it's been 10 years now,
Yeah.
so time flies. That's all I can
Yeah.
say. Time flies.
When
Yeah.
you're having
Yeah.
fun. Well, okay. So in terms, I love that. Okay, yeah, you had to discover the body, and became fascinated with presence, executive presence. What I'm curious, what were some of your initial explorations into, I don't know if we'd call it somatic coaching, or I'm thinking of like the Strozzi Institute, or, Richard Strozzi Heckler, or
Yeah.
what were some of your early influences, or, yeah, what was your entry point into embodied coaching or neuroscience based
Yeah.
perspective?
So I think I'm going to be looking at it in two aspects. First of all, when I was 34, I actually ended up doing a burnout when I was in Spain, because the environment, the work culture was very hard. And but now I understand it wasn't so much about the work; is that one of the person I was confronted into that work was an echo of one of my parents. And then that's where, when I was 34, I discovered that I had development trauma.
I
I
see.
had
Okay.
a body reaction. My body broke down, right? So you're in the middle of a meeting. I was having a normal meeting, and somehow I come out of that meeting, go to my office, and I start crying, and literally was like, what's going on? So you look at it and you're like, what is happening? I remember my secretary, I was HR director of a head of HR in Spain, came in and said, "What's going on?" I said, "I don't know. I don't know what's going on." And I just couldn't stop crying. So she took me by the hand. She was older than me at the time. I was 34. She took me by the hand, got to the next door doctor. I started telling him what I was going, he said, "What is happening?" And I was telling him about the challenges we were going through. And then he's like, "Okay, take these 3 pills, come back in 1 hour." And he gave me antioxylytic. And I was like, "What is this? What happened?" Right? So that was the first confrontation where then my body basically gave me a wake-up call, right? So at that time, I really had no understanding and no clue about the role of the body. It's not something that is in my family culture, not something I had in my lifestyle at all. I only know that I engaged in intensive Pilates at the time. I was doing Pilates 4 or 5 times a week, and it took me out of it. It managed to take me back into a state where I was able to make decisions. So I was intrigued, and I was 34. Of course, I had a psychotherapy at the same time that made me realize actually that I had been, I had development trauma. Yeah. And that I had development trauma, which was a big revelation, right? When you're 34 and you suddenly realize your childhood was not normal, that there was abuse, psychological abuse, particularly, and neglect. And that really woke me up to even the word trauma, because I would never have considered myself a traumatized person at the time, right? Later on, what happened when I actually was in my job, so that's the first encounter, I would say, that got me interested. And then in 2010, I was actually a global HR business partner, and I wanted to improve my way of listening, and I actually did NLP, neuro-linguistic programmation, right? And neuro-linguistic programmation has elements of body in there. It talks about the body language, looking at how people, kinesthetic, auditive, all these things. So and you start doing a little bit of Ericksonian hypnosis in there, so there was a start. So NLP, I would say, would be the start.
A starting point, sure.
The starting point. And then I think the Neuro Leadership Institute of New York, where I did the brain-based coaching certification. Then that was all about the science of thinking, brain, cortisol effect, your nervous system, right? And then in that training, somebody told me, "You should try TRE." And that was, "You should try TRE," was an answer to a question I asked, which was, I was an executive coach, right? 2016, I jumped out. I was starting having people coming to me for coaching. And I had a number of senior professional male, majorly, were on the edge of burnout. And their cognitive was overwhelmed. They couldn't think their way out of their situation. Their emotion was overwhelmed, either anger, emotional composure issue. And they were like, "Help me." And I was like, gosh, I'm trained on cognitive narrative therapy. I'm trained on value belief. It doesn't get in. The only way in, therefore, somebody told me in that training was, you have to go through the body. Try TRE. And I was like, "What is TRE?" That was 2016. I had never heard of TRE. And that's how
And where this was in New York, or where?
In Singapore.
Okay, in Singapore. Okay,
the Neuro Leadership Institute, New York Leadership Institute trains, in different places. But they say you should try TRE. And I was like, "What is this?" And that's where I actually had my first TRE session. I looked it up. That person who told me try TRE put me in touch with Michel Beck and Ching, who were in Singapore. And I had my first session with them, and there where I was like, "What is this? What is this?" Literally, it is, "What is this?" And how do I work with that, right? So that was this big realization that I was actually totally disembodied. And then I
so wait a minute. So
my answer.
No, go ahead. But then
and I got the answer to what is presence, and it was like this body. He came back into my sphere of reference. It's comical almost to say now when I look back, but it's like I was living beside myself for I don't know. I was 44 at the time, right? 44. I had lived 44 years beside myself, literally.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
So share more. I mean, that sounds, like it was a major thing. What do you remember about that first session, just in general? Like what do you recollect?
Well, so what I recollect was, so as a, I would define myself at the time that I was, as many people in the business world, a bit of a control freak, right? Having to control my environment, really believing I could control through the power of my thinking. And when I started doing it, is that having the ability to let go and trust that whatever these sensations were, fine, and I'm not going to be hurt by them, really was, I would say shifted my whole world literally. What I remember was really not being in a cognitive understanding of what was going on. Noticing all this energy that I had inside, noticing the body sensation, not being able to make a cognitive sense of what was going on. And that the first few sessions were very challenging because as somebody who is relying, and I'm still in some way also, I'm evolving, relying a lot on my cognitive understanding to make sense of my world and therefore feel a sense of safety, suddenly realizes that actually safety doesn't come from your ability to think and control. Safety is actually felt sense,
Right.
which I didn't have. Was the start of I would say, the exploration I did then from that moment on, and I'm still on that exploration. It's been 10 years that I keep exploring my own body, my own nervous system, around looking for how do I stabilize that felt sense of safety in my own body, from not from a thinking the concept, but really sensing it from an inner sensation, right? And so that was the fact. What was amazing at the time is that just doing TRE, I lost 6 kilos in a month just doing TRE. And then I got intrigued about what is the role of the nervous system with actually my weight. I had weight issues since I'm a very early age, I think 5 years old, 6 years old. And then I got also very intrigued by that, thinking, okay, what is this? And then, of course, thanks to Michelle and Ching that educated me a lot at the time as my TRE teacher, understanding the impact of stress on digestion, elimination system, cortisol effect on the body, all these, had been concepts that I understood because I worked in the pharma. So you go to training, you understand it. But to actually move that from concepts that you have as a cognitive understanding to, oh, that's what's happening in my body. Yeah. And that's how it feels when it's happening. There's a huge gap there, and I could say it's almost the self-awareness gap that I was bridging. I had a cognitive self-awareness, but I didn't have a felt self-awareness.
Self-awareness, a felt
I didn't have an embodied self-awareness. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so TRE opened that field. And because I'm in nature very curious and I love learning new things, then it was like going on a wild travel to a place or land that you've never visited, right? It's like going for the first time. I don't know. For me, I can just imagine first time to Argentina will feel exactly the same that it feels every time I'm doing body-based practices now, which is what is going to come out? What am I going to realize? So I'm still in that fascination and excitement. And also, just noticing the impact he had on just how I showed up as a leader. Not only did he help me to recover from burnout and stress and be a lot more into having better, more clear decision making, improving my emotional composure, but I became aware of what presence means when you're energetically working with your presence. And that executive presence that you have to have in meeting rooms when you are either you're overextending or you're shrinking to fit. How do you actually work with your energy? Starting getting a lot more self-awareness about how am I actually showing up. So the being versus the doing, which is the big shift we have to do in leadership development, is we move from the doing to the being at some point, right? And so it really started becoming a beautiful investigation through doing it on my body first, on how could I support then into my work those individuals that are trusted by organization to move from a doing role, which is management, right, to now you're going to become a leader And a leader only exists if they have followers.
Right. That's right.
And the followers will follow presence and charisma, or they see themselves in that person, right? It's a matter of trust. It's a visceral safety mechanism in our body that makes us trust somebody.
Right.
And so that's where the loop with coaching started showing clearer and clearer for me about that's where I need to go to really help my client and the people I try to serve as a coach to move beyond the cognitive understanding of what leadership is to the felt sense understanding of what leadership truly is.
Yeah.
So that's how it
Fascinating.
actually comes in. Yeah.
Cool.
It's an interesting I like, as you say, it's fascinating for me to investigate it.
Well, when you got you had your first or second, your third sessions with Michelle and Ching. Um, at what point, like, I don't know, like when I first did it, for example, I didn't know that this was going to become something that I would do many hundreds of thousands of times. I didn't know in the
Yeah,
beginning this was
same.
going to be something I did a lot of over years. At what point did it become clear for you that there's a lot here and you were going to keep going? I mean, maybe that was immediately obvious to you. I'm just, how did
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
No, it wasn't obvious. I think it was the same than you. I actually started doing it more for myself. And then I was like, okay, what is that woo-woo stuff, right? It's like coming from the hardcore cognitive thinking. It was like, I'm going to try that stuff body-based and see. I think it became obvious to me when I started doing the model 2, which is leading others. And then I was starting having two things: a really strong sense of fulfillment when I was holding space, looking at that organism tremor, feeling like that's my place, that's what I want to do.
Hmm.
And hearing the feedback of people after the session where they suddenly found a way back to themselves, that without having to go through trying to look for the powerful questions, or what am I going to ask them so that they have that insight,
Hmm.
somehow through that tremoring, when they stood up, generally people after a while wants to tell their story, they have realization. It's like suddenly the penny drops, right? And I had
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
too, that sense of clarity that comes when you look back at the problematics you were looking at, or taking or the drama reducing, right? So I
Yeah.
was fascinated by that, and then I decided, okay, I want to know more about it. But then TRE, right, is non-narrative, it's purely body-based. I'm a coach, and I thought, how do I mix two? So I searched, and that's where I went to the Strozzi Institute. So what I did is
Okay. I see.
actually, I was very lucky to be trained by Richard Strozzi himself, who was,
Hmm.
at the time, I think he was 75 and still teaching. So I decided to undertake the two program that he has, which is called Embodied Leadership.
Hmm.
Embodied Leadership 1 and Embodied Leadership 2. And that was amazing because that was leadership development, 3 days leadership development, not one slides, on a dojo doing Aikido move, which I'm not a
Right.
martial artist, and people coming out of there with other people who are all in corporate job, and everybody coming out of there thinking, now I understand what it means to actually have presence when I have to hold the space of performance conversation, or
Yeah.
having to make a promise, and or having to hold somebody accountable, or giving an assessment. I
Right.
know what it feels like in my body to do it. And
Yeah.
his technique, it's purely movement based, right?
Right.
I was so fascinated by it that I embarked on the whole somatic coaching accreditation. That was 18 months, with a lot of travel to Petaluma. I also
Hmm.
then, the Strozzi Institute also goes deep in trauma, right? So then start talking about trauma. And that's what is in common with TRE is trauma. And then
Right.
they had a beautiful way of looking at how do you work with when trauma is in a room in a coaching context, about hearing the biography, listening to the story.
Yeah.
And that's where what happened, I saw tremoring coming naturally in the body of people doing those training. When suddenly there was an alignment or something, one of the movement happened. I had it in my own body too, where at some point there was an exercise. I remember we did the anger practice. right? So we had something where we work with the energy of anger and we stay with it and try to take action with the energy of anger, but not from a place of anger, right?
Yeah,
And my
I see.
body went for almost an hour and a half non-stop tremoring after that. The release was massive, right? And so there I was not afraid of the tremor because I had done the TRE. And my teacher, Richard, at the same time said, good, you've got the TRE training. Let yourself tremor, your body is releasing. Other people in that training who had never heard of TRE and never encountered tremor got scared of that mechanism. And that's where I realized that's how we can actually work with it, is for people not to be afraid of the body reaction to healing, and having that true alignment mind body. When it comes, neurogenic tremoring will show up as being that alignment mind heart body, right? And it will actually helps the body realign literally, and you see it coming in different contexts, so that's how I got. And then, of course, after that, I did the somatic. I was talking with Michelle and Xing. I was doing stuff on her. I also trained on somatic body work with Richard Strozzi. So I learned the massage type of, it's like a routine of body work.
Did you ever, I don't know the timeline, but there's two other people I know from the Strozzi world who maybe One is Mandy Blake, and she recently wrote a book called Your Body is Your Brain.
Yes,
I think,
yes.
something like that.
Yeah, she wasn't at the same time. She had been graduated before as a master somatic coach, but yes, I followed and I read her book. Mandy Blake is one, yeah. And the other one
she's one, and then the other is somebody who I did coach training with later. His name he's since passed away, Doug Silsby. And
I heard the name, yeah.
Yeah,
I heard the name.
Anyway, just curious if you connected.
Yeah, so Mandy Blake, Amanda Blake writes, her course, the body, your body is your brain is fantastic. The other person which I follow now, because I've also trained, it's not in the biography, but I'm also a certified mindfulness teacher now from the UK College of Mindful Meditation. David Trevelyan, who is actually in the foreground of trauma-informed mindfulness. He's doing a really, really good course online, which goes, by the way, has so much in common with TRE because it goes a lot in the window of tolerance into all the mechanism, and it offers ways of actually making people feel safe in meditation when trauma shows up. But one other thing I want to actually have a discussion is around changing the body scan in the 8 weeks MPSR to TRE, changing the body scan by TRE. That would be for me the integration, which I'm going to be exploring how to bring those two together. But so somatic. After the Strozzi, then I was invited by David Berceli to join the trainer program, and look, I have that passion of teaching. I've been in learning and development in corporate. I really feel like I'm in my purpose. It gives meaning to my life when I'm actually passing knowledge on, when I'm empowering other people. And so I've certified now right in September last year, but what I've had in my certification, I trained a lot of people who had corporate jobs, who were either in HR or were in finance or had been business unit leader, and they became TRE provider. And again, in my cohort that I have in Singapore, around 70% of the people are actually people who come from marketing, procurement, CFO, HR. Some have the job, some are thinking of transition maybe to coaching or something else. But they come from corporate, and all of them are saying, we need this in the corporate world. Why is all of that not penetrating in the corporate world? Because it's science-backed, and it has a direct impact on improving leadership, management skill. All those secret words that if you are in the world of talent development, we're always looking at executive presence. Well, what is executive presence, right? Capacity to hold pressure, capacity to actually be successful in first-time environment. It's all about the capacity. And that's one of the things that corporate does. We try to train capacity through skills, but it's not. It's the nervous system, right?
It's a nervous system. Yeah. Can you stay regulated amidst stress?
Exactly. Which is, for me, where now the loop is coming. And I'm so passionate about bringing TRE and other somatic practices. I think breathwork could be very good too, around This is about, so I have an idea of developing a new training, which would be looking at the spaces that manager or leader have to hold, not the skills they have to develop, but the space. When we're in a performance discussion or a PIP, right, or ranking, or when you have the calibration session, we are into holding a space where we have to make decision around performance. And then there's a moment where we need to go in a space of growth, where we have to be the person, trustworthy, creating safety for the person to actually dream and project themselves with you in their future, right? When you're trying to have a conversation, a stay conversation or whatever, you have to actually make that person safe. Then we have the others where we have to do goal setting. Again, we're in a dream world, right? But if people are afraid, they contract, they go into compliance, tell me what I have to do and follow. There is no commitment, no heart in it, right? So I'm actually really now in that internal investigation of how can I actually bring all what I have learned now in that amazing world of somatic, and I continue exploring with my colleague Simba. Simba is really amazing at helping me stretch myself and go into edges around my somatic practice. And I'm like, that's what I need to figure out so that we can actually bring it to the professional world, especially now. I think it's relevant in the world of AI, where the only differentiator we will have as human being is to become more human and actually truly master who we are holistically as a human being, which is body, nervous system, emotions, belief system, and our cognitive power and our intuition, right?
Yeah.
That's the unique recipe of being human. And so far, education and education, leadership, and companies are really focusing on the cognitive side, which is not going to compete with AI. It's not. It's finished.
The easiest realm for AI to surpass us, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's already surpassed us, right? None of us can actually in 2 seconds answer a question the way AI is now answering any question in the world, right? Create me a 12 years program of this, whatever, or 12 months program today about it. You wait 1 minute, you got it. No human being in the world, whatever intelligence they have, will be able to have that access to a knowledge bank and that speed of structuring it and that speed of articulating it with word, right? So I think it's really important we bring that other master, and that's what I'm a student of it. So I'm doing it on myself first so I can figure out how I actually make sense of it in my world before I actually, and I lead some clients through it, and the results are really good. People really like it. It takes them out.
Okay,
of
so
the
that's
brain.
my question is, so I love that, and I love that you're it's an inside out job. You're learning within yourself over this long time period. But what success are you already having bringing TRE into business spaces? That could be through one-on-one coaching work. It could be through presenting to a community. It could be through your certification work where you're training people. But what I'm already hearing from you is you have a big vision about how much more opportunity there is. But even before thinking about the future, how is it going already? Like what?
Not well, if you want to say, not well in a way that it's not scaling, because you're right. At the moment, it's really on the one-on-one. When I actually bring it inside an executive coaching, and I've done it with different people I coach people who are at chairman level to C-suite level, country managers, etc. 95% of my coaches are men, right, in leadership position in different type of big companies, right? And when they try TRE, they love it. And they're like, what is this? It's like, the first they like it because they don't have to talk about emotion too much. So it actually cuts the need to talk about how I feel. They go through it. And when I come out of it, we have a really, really good coaching session because suddenly their nervous system has downregulated, right? And then and they understand they can access the cognitive brain better and clarity comes. So they love it because I put TRE into an explanation about how our brain works, how how you actually get into getting control of yourself, right? And they are exploring and they enjoy it. Where the challenge is as soon as we say, okay, so what do we do about bringing that to your people? Then there is this, I don't think I will be able to actually bring it because, HR wants to see proven results and it's a bit woo woo and, we're not getting people to do things with their body at work, right? So I think it is, we are at the stage where, and I think I'm really keeping my hopes high because I think mindfulness took 30 years. John Kabat-Zinn took 30 years to get mindfulness out of a hospital setting where he was looked at as being a bit woo-woo by other doctors to now.
Right.
Mindfulness is everywhere in big companies like Google, Facebook, whatever, name it, they put mindfulness class, right? So I think we are the next wave. We are going to have to, however, I'm a big fan of joining strengths to try to get in to create a movement. All right. And then I think what is beauty of TRE is that TRE can apply in so many different specialty that actually corporate. I think it's so for me, we are facing the biggest unmet needs, which is the struggle with stress and trauma of normal people, which will not go and see a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a counselor. Will not go and see a physio, right? Or a Pilates teacher or yoga teacher. They're trying to manage it and they are left pretty much on their own device to try to figure a way out of it. And a lot of them in the corporate world, by the way, a lot of the leaders I work on one-on-one want to work with me one-on-one and because they don't want their company to know they're struggling because it's not safe. It's not safe at all. So I think where I'm trying to figure out now is how do we actually embed all these embodiment and somatic practices into something that looks familiar and safe for corporate to let us get in and bring them on a journey on discovering about how they can improve, their performance. Now, I've had a few success with entrepreneurs, so I think it works better in family-owned business. Because usually decision-making goes a lot faster. And then if the owner likes it and it does something for their body, they'll bring it very quickly. And I've had a couple of family-owned business where it's part of their way of taking care of the employee. When they have a leadership meeting where they'll do strategic thinking, they'll do TRE before. And then start going into strategic conversation, the way we use it in the TRE world, right?
Sure, right.
But I think we have there's a massive opportunity for us to bring all these somatic and nervous system regulation practices in the world of conflict management. And conflict management is a big topic in corporate, right? Around managing conflict constructively and generatively instead of breaking, decision. And at the moment, it's really more into the world of using the words, right? Being careful how you words and process, but we're not taking care much of the emotions and the nervous system reaction. So I'm having some success I had in Singapore, a technology company who let me do a 3 hours workshop and some group coaching with this software development. We are all up here and, there was 3 of us in the faculty and then I'm the one who got the biggest satisfaction score about the relevance for them was to get them to do breath work, meditation, and a bit of TRE. And they were like, that is a game changer for me as a software development. Cool. So we are able to have it, but it's very anecdotal at the moment, So my view, Alex, and back to what you're saying. So what I'm trying to do is think about how do we scale up, right? Which is why I actually initiated trying to get ICF accreditation on the module 1. Of TRE, which we are happy to have, so now if people who are coaches in the world, ICF coaching, take the TRE module 1, they can get CCU units. And my hope is if we start bringing it into the world of coaching that are actually supporting leaders We get
Right.
extra champion who can talk about it and bring it. And eventually, a little bit like mindfulness, John Kabat-Zinn, I think we'll get it coming in as being mainstream, right?
Yeah.
So that's my vision of the future and my hope. I hope it
Very
answer your
cool.
question.
No, I love it. Have you found, TRE has a funny name because, TRE, but the T can stand for two things, tension and trauma releasing exercises, or sometimes we say tension and stress release. The name actually, by design, this is part of,
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah.
Berceli's personality is that, he's actually quite flexible, use the right words for the right audience, so to speak.
Yes, yes.
And so I'm
Yeah.
curious for you, have you, um, in your coaching world, has it been useful to lean into the trauma informed piece,
Yeah.
or has it been better to lean away from that, like lean into resilience or stress management, or both? I'm curious how you've navigated that.
Yeah, so on the selling process, no, you don't actually, I don't lean in. Trauma is a word that scares HR people in general and procurement people, right? So we have to be very clear about who are we actually talking to when we're selling products, right? You're in
Okay.
front of a HR who has been trained, I don't know if you're familiar with HR, but I have my own my own opinion about where HR function is going. But I think we're losing more and more the human in HR because
Yeah.
there's been a big trend about HR big data, and HR wants standardized, predictable, scalable process, and they
I
think
see.
more as accountants now
Yeah.
and engineer than actually human specialist, right? So
Yeah.
one of the things is I usually don't sell it if I talk to HR or procurement because trauma is a word that scares people, right? It
Okay.
scares people on the corporate level for two things. First of all, if people
Yeah.
start telling they're being traumatized because of the multiple quarterly reorganization we're doing, where people leave their life thinking they're going to lose their job, which is the
Right.
reality in some industries where you don't feel safe ever now with your job, creates
Right.
trauma. We know that, right? It creates trauma because it's really impacting the sense of safety.
Sure.
The legal side will be, wow, we don't want to use that word because otherwise we are going to be liable, right? So it's a
Right.
whole legalistic view of it. So I don't use it. I tend to work really more around the word of resilience and capacity, which is
Hmm.
really what company are looking for. So I'm trained, on talent management tools, right? The Corn Ferry, 9 books and all of that. And what we
Hmm.
look at it is that ability to recover from setback, that resilience to self-motivate in the face of uncertainty, that ability to lead from the front, change management when you don't know where you're going and take the heat of pressure or the heat of resistance. That's all
Hmm.
resilience world, right? So I'm
Hmm.
coming at it from that side using those words on saying that ability to take the heat of resistance. It's not skills, it's capacity. It's your nervous system. That ability to step up, being the first one to actually lead a change, the courage, it's nervous system, right? Overcoming the fear, the flood, the freeze. That ability to take tough decision, and put people on, on performance management or firing people who are underperforming. You have to actually take that pressure of the aggression that comes in, right? So it's all nervous system related. So when I talk this way, that's where I hear people saying, okay, you're going beyond. And we're looking what one of the problem leadership development and management development suffers from is a lack of sustainability of the result. Yeah, so you have performance coaching. I can get you to do something very quickly differently. In 6 months' time, you're back to what you used to do, right? So, which is
Okay.
what somatic coaching addresses is the sustainability of the transformation, not a quick
Okay.
fix. Now, some
Yeah.
company wants a quick fix, but when you're looking at when I'm working at the culture of an organization where you enter in change program of maybe 2 to 3 years, we are building sustainability of result, right? And that's where I think we can use the word resilience. And that's why you say boost resilience versus talking about trauma. Now, when we're in a room with people, I talk about trauma. because
Yep.
90, I have to say, I coach I coach a lot of people. I've got around 1,800 hours of coaching now registered with ICF.
Yeah.
90% of my clients skill behavioral issues that they wanted to be fixed had a ground in some level of small or big trauma. 90% of those leaders have it, and they don't sometimes know it. Like I didn't know, right? We don't want to hear it. We don't want to be defined as I have trauma. But it is there. And once we actually work with it on saying it's not something that will I create an identity or put a label on your head and you're out of the game. It's about accept and now work with it. Right. So that's where mindfulness comes. It's the accepting it, so naming it so that we can work with it. And that has actually showed up a lot in some specific coaching I had. I have example of how it showed up, and TRE helped a lot to create that not being afraid of it, because we're working without the words and it's the body's healing, and that's the beauty of it.
Well, so then that leads me to another question. So, in the coaching world, including the ICF, which has done, the best job of articulating or actually delineating sort of the field of coaching and the competencies and the goals. But there's a common sort of framework that coaching is it's future oriented, it's outcome based, and that we don't want to be past focused. We're going to start, then we're bleeding into counseling and psychotherapy, and all coaches are nervous about their scope of practice and this and that. And of course, I'm a coach and I use TRE and other somatic experiencing. So I figured this out for myself. But for you, how do you hold that and actually even in the approval process of getting TRE Module 1 accredited through ICF as eligible hours?
Yeah.
How do you explain the role of nervous system body-based work within a coaching scope of practice, so to speak?
Yeah, very good. So actually the Module 1 got accredited. It's personal use, right? So what I have done is I've actually analyzed the ICF competencies, and the last review of ICF competency, the word embodiment is introduced in the competencies. Now there is embodiment. So that's the entry point. So what I have done is, as thanks to David, who's given me permission, he said, do whatever you have to do and change the name if you need to, right? Exactly what he said. The TRE Module 1 has been renamed Presence and Self-Regulation for Coaches, right? Avoiding vicarious trauma and increasing your presence. And that's based on competency 2, 5, and 7. So they are very specific competencies in the ICF, and we could go in more detail. I don't have them just under me, but I did that study. There is some where the coach has to take care of himself. The coach has to be aware about his reaction to what is being heard. The coach has to be ensuring they're not transferring their own view on the other person. Right? The coach has to enter a practice to ensure they're holding a safe space and grounded space for the client. The coach has to be able to recognize emotions and reaction in the client, including body reaction. So I took those competencies and really fleshed it out about how does learning TRE help you as a coach to take care of your own nervous system, so that you come in as being safety, so the whole co-regulation. So I talked about co-regulation when I did the paper for ICF, about the need of co-regulating, the ability to recognize in others through our mirror and your own, right? What is happening in the other person's body, feeling them, which is one of the competency of ICF, right? You asked a powerful question from the world of the coachee. Well, now, how do you actually feel? You have to let yourself be informed, right? So that's what we do as TRE provider. We look at that body and we feel in our own body something is happening, right? We resonate. And that's a training we learn, by doing TRE.
Right.
So I really looked at the concept theory on LCF and just looked at it from the model one. So at the moment, the model one is really around self-care for coaches, about how
Okay.
do we make sure, and also creating awareness around the risk of vicarious trauma and compassion fatigue in coaches. Because I've just seen some recent static of CF that there's 90% of the coaches have now reported that their clients are looking for emotional support. People are in distress. There is we know, you look at what is being published, there is an epidemic of burnout, of mental health issues, of disengagement in the corporate world. There's a lot of suffering when we're on the coaching side. That impacts our nervous system as coach when you're day in, day out. I have 3 coaching sessions this afternoon. 2 of them have just been told they're losing their job. The other one has a toxic boss who is a bully. All they talk about is the suffering, about how they can't sleep, they don't know what to do, they're trying to figure out. It's not, oh, I want to know how to sell 20% more. It's about, how do I survive a bad boss, a toxic culture, an organization that restructures every 3 months, where I've had 8 bosses in the last 6 months and I don't know what I'm supposed to do, where I get my performance management, or my team turnover, people are leaving and suddenly I'm having to function with 4 people when normally I have 8. I can't sleep anymore. I'm traveling and I'm totally jet lagged all the time. That's the reality now, what corporate world. So we're into working with organisms who are in survival into a corporate context that has become very dehumanizing. And I think the coaches are facing that. And a lot of coaches have been trained on doing performance coaching, right? They've done transition coaching, but not a lot of us, and you know that, Alex, are going in the field of transformational coaching, where we really going deep in the belief, the values, and when are those created, right? The story of trauma and whatever, and where we forward people, right? So there's a really, really strong need for coaches to take care of themselves as a caring profession, so that we can be safe in holding those conversations for others without projecting our own insecurities, right? On thing. Now, the next step will be to try to get Model 2 and Model 3 accredited, and this is going to be about how do we bring in. So I need to look at the relationship, because this is all about the relationship between the coach and the coachee. And we are non-narrative, right? Coaching is narrative. So how do we bring that? You're using TRE in coaching. I do too. We know there is a way in, because TRE brings, if you do a tremor, then the speaking is easier, right? The person comes from a very different place, from a grounded place, when they start talking and looking at their story. So we are into that. I like, in somatic coaching, we talk about moving from reaction to response. That interrupter, that's what TRE does. I'm in reaction, I do some tremoring. Now I'm accessing response, not reaction. And that's, I think, where I think I want to investigate how to actually put it together. And David has been super supportive in saying, look, do whatever we have. He keeps saying it, right, Alex, David? Do what you have to do in modifying so that it actually fits the audience. Change the language if it's military, change the language if they're fire departments, change the language if it's coaches, or if it's corporate, right? So exciting. I find this exciting. From a cognitive perspective, it's exciting too, because it's really
very exciting.
It really get us to think through, concept and create, some model around it too, So it's exciting.
I love hearing your careful, because I can hear kind of this careful cognitive process around finding the right fit, and relating it to competencies and credibly making those connections. That sounds very creative and very useful.
Yeah. Well, I think we are back, Alex, in many fields. I think you would agree with that. In the medical field, Western medicine has compartmentalized and broken our body in pieces, like if they were working separate from each other, but they're all linked, right? I think in the corporate world and coaching, we've done the same. We think we can actually improve performance of a person just by giving them thinking differently, or change a value from A to B, or be aware of your values, or learn these skills. But hey, that person brain is in a body, and we can't actually take that one out, right? And we are still in that delusion,
sort of
right?
dividing, separating systems.
But which is what I think, if you look at all the investment on AI, is trying to get the human side out of it. They're trying to take the human side out of that cognitive by creating this AI that will never feel stress, right? That will always have an answer very quickly, whatever, except that what they don't know. And I worked as a HRBP supporting people who are developing AI and cybersecurity. The only problem is AI is designed as learning from human being. If you train an AI observe human being. So therefore AI
from human beings.
From human being. So now the question is it learning from regulated human being or dysregulated human being?
Yeah.
Who is training AI? Right?
Yeah. Right.
Who is actually coding it? Is it dysregulated nervous system that are coding, or regulated? And I think it's a lot of dysregulated nervous system. And I've been in HRBP in that world. I can tell you there's a lot of dysregulated nervous system behind AI.
I love this AI stuff. I have this prediction that in 5 or 10 years, like that will become the main conversation that I and others will be like. I predict that in 10 years, if I'm still doing what I do, coaching work, TRE work, if I still interview people, my prediction is that the number one conversation in 5 or 10 years is going to increasingly be, what does it mean to be human in a world where so much was offloaded, so much of the operating structure has been offloaded onto computers and machines and robots, and so now what now for human beings? It's going to be a very interesting transition. Okay, so I have a question for you. Maybe the closing question, depending on things. But how would you articulate your, I guess, vision or dream? Like you've alluded to, the success of mindfulness and John Kabat-Zinn. It took quite some time, but then it's everywhere, and it's accepted, and it's legitimized.
Yeah.
And you've alluded to that pathway as being possible for embodied work, nervous system work, tremoring work. Share a little bit about what opportunity do you think there is, or what do you hope will happen with the work that you do? What would you like to see?
So I would like to see that the approach we're taking, which are trauma-informed, nervous system-informed, I put TRE as part of that, right? And embodied way of developing the management and the leadership of companies. I would just put that, irrelevant what industry and size.
Okay.
Become mainstream. I would not want to have our work. Mindfulness is in there, but it's still put a little bit on that, that's on the list with the yoga and the benefits of the gym and everything, so that we give ourselves good conscious that employees, employee benefits,
program, the corporate wellness program.
Exactly, the employee benefit that actually make you tick the box and then, say, oh no, they burned out, not my fault, because they had access to all of that, right? It's really around that. I've seen that. I work for a lot for company, right? I would like us not to fall in that category of just being one of those tick the box and not really having a commitment, to really having us move into the mainstream of, we are becoming the enabler for human being to truly differentiate companies from each other, right? Whether you have a company where your leadership team is fully regulated, can enter conflict in an adult generative way, hold true psychological safety for creativity and risk-taking to come on and innovation, versus another company where the leadership team is dysregulated, right? I think I would like to see us come into the mainstream as being, this is the way through to development, not an add-on that, or afterthought, which is really what's happening, right? Is separated. I would like us to actually become really embedded as being the pathway. So, you asked me a question about, you're not saying you're a coach who found the body later, you are leading from somatic trauma informed, because we have to actually go into reconciling and accepting that our body leads the way we think more than our thinking leading the body, right?
Interesting.
Top down has a limit, which is the body. If the body decides in our limbic system and our SNS, it's mainly way outside of our cognitive, our own COO, which is the reptilian brain, right? Decides on its own how he wants to regulate it, right? It's not something I think about, let me salivate more now, or, am I feeling good today or not, right? It comes, we wake up and you're like, ooh, I'm not in a good place today. And that impacts our ability to work. So if we are able to actually start really incorporating this as being the place where we start. So I'm starting training people about saying, start a checking in your meeting, do a checking. How are we today? And start from body sensation. I'm actually feeling under the weather, and I have some type of pain, and that distracts me of being here all the time. Or I actually am partially dissociative today, right? Because I don't like that sensation in my back, and that means that, guys, I'm struggling, holding attention more than 5 minutes today, and not like something is wrong. But this is the reality we're dealing with.
Normal. This is normal.
Yeah, and then
these
we
days
actually
are normal.
Yeah, and then we adapt, our conversation, so that we can be heard and that we can make the decision. Maybe it is not the moment to make the decision about whether we cut 25% of the workforce to save money, because half of us around the table haven't slept properly. And that we know by the science is telling us that we haven't slept properly is like being drunk and making a decision. You wouldn't actually, drink 5 bottles of wine and then make a decision whether you retrench people in your company, right? So why would you do it with sleep-deprived people around the room? And that's the reality. So I would like us to get to a point where we educate. So I would like us, personally, Alex, my dream is we actually start talking in conference, which are business conferences, not only body conferences or not only trauma conferences, but we start, because a lot of us in the TRE world are entrepreneur. You are, I am. We come from that world. We can go and say, hey, this is how I'm a better entrepreneur or a better leader, because that's what I'm doing. And that's what I want you guys to do too. Because then we can actually serve humanity and the planet better as business leaders and business entrepreneurs, right? I think. Whether the system of capitalism will like it, I don't think so. But, we have to actually create a movement so that it starts deploying. Right? It is. That's the question, is we'll see what happens. I think you and I will long be passed away. But, if I think that's the knowledge. We have to give that knowledge about the body to the people who are now born and raised into a bodiless world. I'm thinking of your kids, right? They're going to end up going to airport where they will never see a human being. We have been used to counter with human being. Airports are becoming humanless. Shops are humanless. Factories are humanless. So how do you grow up as a human being to know how to co-regulate with another nervous system if you're actually ending up being in places where there's actually no other human being around? And that's really something that will change, right? What if we have schools which are remote, online? Yeah, you're alone behind your computer. You're not regulating your nervous system with the kids in the classroom like we used to do, right? And there's places where they're developing that. I know first place I was working in a company who was trying to develop, or is developing, smart cities. And we don't have the main role in smart cities. AI has.
Yeah.
AI
We're not the smart in the smart cities.
No, exactly. We're not. We're the one who are being tracked, followed, and assisted. But that also we know that we'll get some of our skills, and then we are going to be probably also more and more isolating. I have a whole discussion. I can talk about what I've discovered working in the technology industry for for 3 years. I was at HR, and it's a very, very different world that's coming up, right? And so I think also about how do we regulate, right? If you think about COVID, right? I don't know. I was talking to some friend in the UK who are telling me that there is a surge of depression and dysregulation in teenagers that I have never seen, unprecedented. And the only thing they all have in common, they all were growing up at a certain age during COVID, where they were isolated, not seeing faces. And now when they're back together, the meltdowns, the emotional dysregulation, the depression, the anxiety in those teenagers is off the roof. We've never seen that. But that's the impact of that virtual world, right? And I think we need to actually maybe just think about how we are going to serve that humanity, in the future. Yeah. But I have a big dream that we can make it through, We just have to keep going at it, believing in it.
Very cool. Well, Isabelle, very inspiring, really interesting to hear, my starting question was, how did you go from where you were and then kind of zoom in on the particular lanes that you're traveling in now? And I feel like I understand that much better for you personally, but also your sense of vision. What is the opportunity for, what's the real value that can be brought to business people, leaders in general? And it's the value of the embodied presence, executive presence, a regulated nervous system, and everything that comes with that. No, you've described that really, really beautifully. So I really appreciate.
I think I come from that. I learned that. I have to say, I learned that when I worked in the pharma and in medical device, because we were always looking at the unmet needs. Where are the unmet needs? And how can you actually respond to the unmet needs? And how do you create champions? Pharma uses key opinion leaders, and they try to get a few doctors to do studies about their thing, and then they talk about how it's good, and then they manage to actually get the agreement from the government, into the list of medicine. You actually mobilize NGOs and non-profit work, to show the result on mass, and try to bring all that system together. So that's really where I'm thinking, I've learned something from being in this business. They're clever on bringing product that, at least pharma, they really, they cure illness. But if you look at Apple, right, how did they make a phone that nobody needed, something that now it's like almost an organ that we can't function without, right? We are looking at their strategy about how do you make it that necessary thing in your life that we actually can't even envisage living without doing our tremor. Without tremoring, right? And I think, Alex, you're in the US, right? Look at how many Americans cannot see their life without going for a run in the morning.
Sure.
I live in Japan. Nobody's running in the streets. They can live differently, right? So we've created a habit. So how do we actually bring a positive, healthy habit that is learning about? And then the fact that we all have it in our body, right? It's free, it's portable, it's available 24/7. You are independent, you're in your sovereignty, you have your own agency to work with your body and the tremoring mechanism. There's nothing best, right? That's almost a human rights. And then I'm back to my human right. Remember, I wanted to become a human right lawyer. So somewhere there, it's deep in there. It's still there. I've just gone to it in a very different way than just studying law and going after war criminal.
A very different way, but an amazing way. Very cool.
Yeah, it's. I can see I'm going back into somehow a circle of coming back to the essence, right? So that's what's happening.
Wonderful. Well, Isabelle, thank you so much. I appreciate all your sharing.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much for having me. And it was lovely. I can see we have so many other conversations we could have around that topic.
It's true.
And thank you so much for having me, Lovely.
Of course. Thank you.
Let's keep the good work together.
That's it for today's episode. We hope you found inspiration and new insights into the power of neurogenic tremoring.
If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. It really helps us reach more people interested in this transformative work.
And if you want to dive deeper, connect with us. Or to learn more about our sessions, courses, and upcoming trainings, head over to neurogenicintegration.com.